Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we're back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. We have Brittany Bishop. How's it going today?
It's going great. I can't complain. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It still feels like summer kind of here in Texas, so I'm happy.
I believe that. Yeah, my family down there, I mean, even just a few weeks ago, we're saying there were still highs of like 109. That's probably fine. That's totally fine for October.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my body's kind of freaking out because it gets down into like the 50s at night, and so it doesn't quite know what to do with itself. But it's like, I'll take it.
So. For that, I've never nailed that one down.
Right. Especially being from West Texas. Like I used to live out in Roswell, New Mexico, so I'm familiar with like Lubbock in that area, and just like the weirdness of that weather was like, okay, I don't know how you guys do it, but it is. Yeah. So you're based out in Nashville now. You said you've been there for about 9 years. How's everything been treating you in Nashville?
You know, it's been going really great. It's definitely been a journey as far as like when you first move here, especially coming from such a small town. It was such a big adjustment, but I really feel like these past couple years have been my favorite in Nashville. Especially this one. Just, you know, with the people I get to work with all the time and the music we've been making, shows we've been playing, like, this is definitely a peak of it for me so far.
Nice. Really cool. And of course, you just wrapped up your Welcome Home tour and you did a little run around West Texas, right?
Yeah, we did. We just got back on, I believe it was Sunday. Who knows at this point? But we had so much fun. Yeah, we hit a couple different areas. We were, you know, over in the Round Top sort of area there. We did a true Welcome Home release show at Abilene, which was super special at Potosi Live. And then we finished her out in Wichita Falls up near Oklahoma. And it was just really cool. You know, my favorite aspect of doing music at all is playing live. So that's always where I want to be.
Nice. Is that kind of your main focus? And then just getting music out is just kind of a secondary focus, or would you say you try and find balance in both?
I try to find balance in both, but I will say, you know, playing live is my number one. We're always trying to have stuff on the docket, stuff on the books, just because that's always been my favorite thing. And so, you know, I absolutely love the iteration of our band and how we sound live too. I mean, I absolutely love doing studio stuff as well, but in my heart, I'm a live girl. I absolutely love that.
Fair enough. So growing up in Nashville, where does your passion for music come from? Was it your family introducing you to music, something you kind of found on yourself, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, I didn't really have a lot of musicians in my family per se that pursued it or anything, but I grew up in the Church of Christ, and my mom sang on the worship team, which Church of Christ, fun fact, you're not allowed to have instruments at all. So, you know, it was really focused on harmony, and that was my first love, you know, because that's what we had to like spice stuff up. And so I always just absolutely fell in love with that sonically. And so that was really truly my first love from my mom. Plus she was playing, you know, Martina McBride, Clint Black, George Strait, and By My Crib every night. Like that's what would get me to sleep. So yeah, we've been in it for a long time as far as the passion behind music.
Nice. That's really cool. It amazes me how many musicians kind of got their start within the church, kind of by chance or by design or, you know, kind of whatever it was. But it, you know, the original kind of thought process behind the podcast was like the only two rules we had was no religion, no politics.
Yeah.
But the more musicians I talk to, it's like, all right, well, we kind of got to drop the no religion thing and kind of let that one go. So
yeah, it was really cool learning that from her, you know.
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
Special to me, always is.
Nice. And when did you kind of realize that music was something that you wanted to follow or something that you should follow?
Right. So yeah, when I was probably, 15 or 16, I started touring with this Western swing band around Texas, you know, as a teenager. And I just remember, you know, because I loved music, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so the first gig we played, like standing on that stage at that bar, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is my life's purpose. This is what I'm here to do. And, you know, those were some really fun years and feeling super cool because I got to miss class to go play shows. But it was absolutely awesome. And it gave me such an appreciation for classic country music, that Western swing style. Like, it's always near and dear to my heart. You know, my sound sonically has changed, but I still keep some of that in there as far as like always having a steel guitar, fiddle, that kind of thing. Super important to me. But that definitely instilled the foundation of just a love of country music in me more than it already was.
Yeah. And, kind of being in Texas, you specifically mentioned like the Western swing aspect of things, which is, I feel, a lot more prominent here in Texas than it is anywhere else. So
I found that out when I moved here. I was like, hey, y'all, you know about Bob Wills? And everybody's like, sorry, what are you talking?
Who? But that's actually kind of the cool thing about the industry right now is I feel like a lot of Texas artists are bringing a lot of those Texas influences to Nashville or to New York or to LA, like where all the Music City hubs are.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these artists that were like really well known around Texas, they're starting to finally get their national fame, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And some of them have been gone for several years already. It's very interesting. So
if you hear like gremlin noises in the background, my cats have decided that now is the time to absolutely lose it. So there's that.
It happens.
But yeah, Cody Johnson is one that I've been so glad to see, just really take off. Because I remember seeing him probably, I don't know, 2014, 2015 at a place in Abilene, and it was like 20 people were there, and I was always such a fan of him, but it's so well deserved for a lot of these guys that have been hitting the road for years and writing great songs and, doing it for truly the love of music and songwriting. Like, that's what I love to see. Those are the kind of people I love to see succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I had somebody on the podcast the other day, and he's from Alabama, and he was talking about how had he known the influence that Texas was going to have and like the epitome for songwriters that they like the support they have for songwriters here, he had probably tried to go to Texas instead of Nashville.
Yes.
So
yeah. Honestly, I mean, it's crazy because Texas has its own ecosystem of music completely. Like, people can be selling out huge places there, and then it doesn't exactly touch Nashville. It's kind of starting to get into that, though, like you were talking about. But yeah, I mean, I just love the energy of, when we go back to play to Texas. That's why I do that so much. Number one, hometown, like home turf. But they just have such an appreciation for live music, and it's just like, something about the energy hits different there. That's why I always love heading back on that route.
Oh, yeah. Now, was Nashville kind of always the goal, or when you growing up, was Austin kind of ever in consideration? Or I guess, was even Austin kind of that big when you were growing up?
It wasn't what it is now, I don't think, as far as like being so notable for being a music city. But I mean, I'm sure it was, but like it wasn't exactly on my radar. I did not have a plan. I'll tell you that. I knew I wanted to go somewhere, but then it kind of being in that band really told me, this is what you need to do. So we went to visit Nashville when I was in high school, and we flew over Belmont University, and I was like, oh, that's beautiful. What is that? And we kind of learned more about it. And I found out they had one more round of auditions for the music school probably 2 months later. So I just got my crap together and kind of flew back out there to audition. Oh my gosh, computer, thank you. And it was really cool. It was a huge. It's popping up a million windows. I love it.
Oh,
you're
good.
But yeah, I mean, I had no technical training in anything, and so it was kind of like a daunting task. But yeah, that's kind of what launched me into that. Just kind of a chance thing of seeing that and being like, I think that's where I need to be.
Fair enough. It's one of those things where when it calls, it calls. Like you don't know where you're going to get the call to go to, but when it happens, it happens.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've just kind of fallen in love with this city, as harsh as it can be at times, because a lot of people thought I might come home after college, but I was like, no, I'm really going to stick it out here and I'm going to try to make this work,
And that's kind of the, like, I mean, I love Texas. I moved here 5 years ago and I love Texas. And I got introduced to West Texas a little bit living out in New Mexico. But, once I moved here, I kind of really fell in love with it. I don't know if Waco's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
just because I feel like Waco's very much a transient city because you got Baylor here, and then
Right.
any musician that really starts to cut their teeth and do something, they're either going to Austin, Dallas, or Nashville. So it's
Right.
like I don't know. I'm kind of figuring it all out as you are well aware that it's
Yeah.
not an easy choice to make. So
No, not at all. Not at all. But, you know, I do love some Texas. I really
oh, yeah.
do.
What's something you miss about Texas? Now, I feel like a lot of Texas stuff is moving to kind of Tennessee, so I'm sure it's probably not
Yeah.
as much as it used to be, but
Right. Um, I mean, if you ask anybody from Texas, what's the best state, they're gonna defend it with their
yeah,
life.
right.
But one thing I miss is just a true honky tonk.
Mm,
Unironic, absolutely been there for years, basically foundational to the ground beneath it. The
yeah,
sawdust floor, the old timers, that come out to dance every night. That's what I really do. I love that energy. I
nice.
absolutely love that.
And
Plus,
they don't quite have that in Nashville yet.
it's kind of a thing, but it's more, I don't know, it just feels a bit different. Like they're kind of newer
Mm,
places a little bit. We've still got some of those things. Like we've got a Music City Bar and Grill, like kind of older places like that. The American Legion that
mm.
still definitely do that, but there's just some places in Texas that are just absolutely awesome that have been around since, I don't know, Texas was
Yeah,
created probably.
probably, yeah.
But a good old sawdust floor. That's something
Oh
you
yeah.
don't see a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's like, I mean, the ones that are still open are standing the test of time. Because like right around the
Yeah.
pandemic, we had lost quite a few of them. There was a lot of the like dance halls and old honky
Yeah.
tonks that are just kind of like we're barely making it as is, and having to
Yeah.
shut down isn't going to help. So
Right. So, that was just extremely tough to see
mm,
too. And you've got your people that go two-stepping every single night. Like it's
yeah.
always the cutest old couple you've ever seen in your life. And I just, I really felt for those people during that time too.
Oh yeah.
But hopefully they're back at it now, stronger than
Right.
ever.
Right. Hopefully. So, but let's jump into your new single that dropped a little over a week ago. Welcome Home.
Yes.
What's kind of the story behind this song?
Yeah. So that song was kind of a fictionalized version of a honky tonk that I saw in my head. You driving down a dark highway, there's nothing out there, and then all of a sudden you just see this place and you
Mhm.
walk in and it's just absolutely a bunch of eclectic people just being truly themselves, and it's kind of just this like, is this real or not
Mhm.
kind of thing. Weirdly enough, it was inspired by a scary story podcast that I was listening to. There was like a
Yeah.
story called The Time Warp Saloon, and then my guitar player Greg Harrison brought in this riff, and I just was kind of like, oh, we can meet this together.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just like that kind of riff started the whole thing, and then that was on my mind. So I kind of wanted to just paint this picture, but it's kind of also loosely based on one of my favorite bars here, dive bars. It's called The Underdog, and it's
Mm,
one of my favorite spots in the whole city. Honestly, it's just the quirkiest place of all time.
nice.
Yeah, where everybody comes to just listen to good music and feel it out.
Nice. I'm always looking for the good dive spots or the good non-touristy destinations, so to speak.
Yes, you have to. I mean, as someone who worked on Broadway in the big main strip,
Mm.
singing for a couple years, I'm had my fair share of the main drag, I would
Oh,
say.
yeah. I drove down it once and I'm like, yep, I'm good. I've seen
That's good.
everything I need.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. It's just
Right.
kind of like take it in and be like, all right, I've seen it. Perfect.
Yep. I've
No.
been down Broadway. It was the craziest thing because it was like a Monday morning at like 9 or 10 a.m. and it was the hoppingest place I've ever been in my life. And I'm like, it's 10 a.m. on a Monday. Who's here
Yeah.
drinking already?
Yeah. Yeah, you'll see some stuff down there. I always
Yeah.
say don't stay past dark. Never stay
Right.
past dark.
Right.
But no, in all seriousness, I think it is a really cool concept because I'm not sure if there's anywhere else like it in the world as far as, 3, 4 floors with different bands in each building in such a condensed
Mhm.
space. Like that is a really cool concept. And, I've met some of my favorite people in the world down there, musicians that I play with to this day, some really talented people. But yeah, as far as the whole the vibe of the thing, a little bit overstimulating at times, a lot.
But it will force you to cut your teeth in a lot of regards because, like you said, there's bars that they have 4 floors, and each floor has its own band or act playing. And
Right.
if if you suck or if you screw up enough, they're going to go to that next floor and
Absolutely.
go and listen to another band.
It is completely, yeah, it was completely insane. And I think that I'll always be grateful to it for being what I would say the best training in the world, as far as being able to learn how to be an entertainer when there's, there's competition in the music industry as an entertainer as is, but when they're literally a floor above you and a floor below you and next door and across the street, you gotta, as far as for what you're doing, trying to make money for that night and entertain the crowd and, keep it going good. It's a huge help as far as, what is it? Exposure therapy. Let's say that. Because you play truly, I calculated it one year, I played like 700 hours of music or something just on that. Yeah.
Nice. And at that time, that was all like cover music, right?
Yep. It was all cover music. So that was absolutely such a good thing for me, even though it was super hard at times, just because I'm not exactly the type of performer that is, let's get everybody drunk, let's, sell alcohol, let's, get super rowdy. But it was great to be able to tap into that side of myself so that I can widen my spectrum of abilities.
Nice.
And, some of my favorite people, like I said, fantastic musicians, fantastic singers, great people down there too, that are really making it happen. Nice. But yeah, it was insane, I would say.
Now, did you tap into that side of yourself for Welcome Home, or was that a different side of you?
For Welcome Home, I would say that I definitely tapped into that. I have another reason why this song was so great for our set list, for adding it to the album, was a lot of my songs tend to be a little more introspective, a little bit slower, which is great. I absolutely love it. But, you got to have that. You got to have that upbeat, absolutely rocking one. So this is a great way for me to kind of marry those two worlds a bit and really kick it up a notch. So that's why I've always, selfishly, this is my favorite one to play live. Absolutely, it is. We always close with it. It is so fun.
It's honestly, it's kind of interesting that this is the one you like to close with, because I feel like it'd be like that second or third to last song, because you want to, like, in my head, it's like you don't want to get them so amped up that they're like ready to go again at the end of the set. But that's why I'm not a musician, so I don't know anybody.
Hey, I'm gonna think about that though. I'm always taking tips. I like to learn something every day.
Right. So with Welcome Home, what's kind of who was the influence for it? Were you listening to certain musicians during like the writing process or during the production, or is it all kind of stay pretty much the same throughout no matter what you're writing?
Yeah. I kind of have my regular cycle of artists, I would say. Jason Isbell's my absolute number one all the time. This one doesn't necessarily reflect that as much as some of the other ones on the record, but I was listening to a lot of Chris Stapleton at the time. I was listening to, Sturgill Simpson, Sound and Fury. I was listening to a lot of kind of stuff like that. So that definitely leaked in there for sure. And a bit of Whiskey Myers as well, always.
Whiskey Myers is so good.
They're great. I've seen them a couple times and they bring it.
Yeah. There's a lot, like I've gotten into country Americana music a lot more since moving to Texas. Like I got introduced to it when I was in college, because I grew up in Chicago. So unless it was on the top 40 station, we weren't really listening to it.
Yeah.
And then I moved down to went to school, and my buddies are like, no, this is who you need to listen to if you say you like country music. And they introduced me to like Hank Williams and just like all these iconic names.
Absolutely.
And then I moved to Texas, and it's like, no, this is who you really need to be listening to. And it was just like all these really cool guys that were cutting their teeth and just really starting to come up. And it's like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned Welcome Home. You're building towards an album, correct?
Yes. I recently finished my album, which is crazy to say, and I could have dragged it out for forever because I had so much fun making it. I was like, with my producer, Bobby Holland, I was kind of like, Bobby, I was like, we could add one more harmonica. We could do one more background vocal here. And at a certain point, it's just like, all right, Brittany, you're ready to fly.
Yeah.
We got this.
Right.
Yeah. So it's going to be coming out early next year. It has been one of the great pleasures of my life to work on it with such special people. Bobby Holland, my producer down at Pentaveret. He is literally one of the sweetest people I've ever met, and just sonically is so intelligent. Like he can just get it. Like he feels what the song needs before you even say it. Like he's absolutely an unreal person, a great friend. And, you know, the studio cats down at Pentaveret as well, some really awesome people to just make this whole thing happen and kind of play on the whole thing to keep continuity. And it's just the relationships I built from it. It's just made this whole process musically so special, but as well personally. It's just been absolutely amazing.
Nice. Now, do you have a release date for the album yet, or is it still kind of up in the air?
Yeah, that's always a fun question for musicians. They get all shifty when you ask for it. Right. So I'm thinking around March or April.
Okay.
April at the latest. I'm holding myself to the fire on that one.
At least you gave me a straight answer. Like most people just say sometime next year.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, I get it. Like you don't want to hold yourself to anything, but yeah, you gave me a straight answer. I appreciate it.
I tried.
Oh, and then obviously you just got off a tour, but like, how often are you playing right now in Nashville? Are you playing pretty consistently, or do you find yourself getting out and playing more?
Yeah, I would say we definitely play more in Nashville consistently, and this year has been really busy. Over the past couple months, we've probably had like, I don't know, 15, 16 shows in Nashville just in the last 2 months. And then we went on the Texas thing. So I kind of gave us a little bit of buffer through the end of the year while I'm working on the logistics of releasing the album and stuff like that. We've still got a couple more things coming, but I was really proud of we hit it pretty hard this year, which is great. But now it just gets me jonesing to want to pack next year even more. You know, that's like I said, my absolute favorite thing.
Right. There's something about being on the road that's just special. Like, especially if you're like driving and you kind of get to experience everything.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I understand the convenience of flying and whatnot, but you kind of miss out on something. Like, if by flying it becomes more of a grind, whereas driving, it's just like a little bit more of a personal connection, from my opinion. So
no, I 100% agree. Like, there's something so nostalgic American dream about being in a van with a bunch of your buddies and going to play music, and you get to know people really well. And I've got such a great group that it's always such a pleasure. We have fun. We have too much fun. Just driving beat up old van down the road is probably one of my favorite parts about it.
Right. And just never knowing what's going to happen.
You really don't. You really don't. But you deal with it. You deal with it. Stuff breaks down sometimes. Things go awry, but it's always the most fun,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We're actually hitting the road the end of November. It's a little out and back. We're doing a live podcast out in Tucson.
Awesome.
I'm driving from Waco to Roswell to pick up my co-host, and then we're gonna drive out to Tucson from there. And it's been 5 years since we've been on the road, so it'll be an interesting
Union tour. I love it.
Yep. So, and I'm hoping it gives us the bug to be like, okay, we gotta do this more next year. So we're either gonna come out of it hating each other more, or we're gonna be bitten by the bug and want to do it again. So there's two ways it can go. Hopefully the good one. Hopefully the good. Right. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the road, so it's not going to be anything crazy, but so just kind of looking forward. Obviously, you've got the rest of the year kind of more focused in on the album, but when you get some time to yourself, what do you like to do outside of music to decompress, all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So I'm a huge horror movie fan. So almost 100% of the time you can find me watching a horror movie. I've got all of the streaming services available that have the best horror movies because I just know myself. That's one of my favorite things. I play my Xbox quite a lot. I think it's just such a good release for me. I love a good Red Dead Redemption. It's really fun. And then someone's sprinting around. I absolutely love this. They're excited. The cats are excited.
Nice. Hey, it adds life.
You see. Yeah, feels like there's 100 of them, but there's 2.
Right. What's your go-to horror film?
Man, how much time do you?
I was gonna say, please say Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I would just be very
Dude, I have literally a hand-drawn picture from a friend. It's right here. You can kind of see it of
nice.
Leatherface in the
Yeah,
frame. Yeah.
nice.
The
I get.
original one is absolutely awesome. Oh my God.
I was gonna say, I guess the real question should be which version of it, because I feel like there's three or four of them. I know
Yeah.
of three, but I feel like there's a fourth one out there.
Yeah, there's always like some weird little offshoot, but
Yeah.
I believe it's four, but the original
Hmm.
is the one
Yeah.
for me. I think it's the coolest story about how they had essentially like no budget, but they made
Mhm.
something so iconic.
Yeah.
And just the cinematography on that is unreal. Plus, growing up in Texas, it's like they did such a cool job of making that feel so eerie.
Mhm.
And even that final scene where it's sunsetting on that county road and he's waving the chainsaw around is one of my favorite moments
Yeah.
in film
Oh
of
yeah.
all time. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
absolutely gnarly, and I love it.
Right. It's very reminiscent, or it's like basically what I imagine inspired like Blair Witch Project when it came out in late 90s, early 2000s, whatever
Yeah,
it was, because it was very much the same thing where they had no budget and it was just a bunch of kids that went out with like very DIY style, and then they just had a really killer marketing campaign. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, quite literally, where everyone thought that they actually died.
right.
But the Blair Witch Project is another favorite of mine because I think that, not to get like on a whole tangent, but
Yeah,
but
no, you're fine. Keep
yeah,
going.
it's one of my favorite things because you never actually see the thing that's scary. You
Mhm.
never actually see it, but they do such a good job of instilling such a fear in
Mhm.
you, and they never even had to show you anything.
Yeah,
And I think that that's something that kind of my qualm with a lot of new horror movies is like in the
yeah,
trailer, you've already seen the thing
yeah.
for a long time, or halfway through the movie, you get an extended look at whatever the main villain is, and it's like, okay,
Mm.
well, now I don't really like,
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah,
I don't care anymore. Like,
fair.
I was really looking forward to Long Legs, and that was my problem with Long Legs. Is that
Nice.
it was, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're a movie podcast now.
Hey, it happens actually quite funnily. This will come out on Halloween. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, this will come out on Halloween. I was just doing the math in my head and I'm like, okay, let's keep going down this road then.
I am always down to go down this road.
Actually, my favorite kind of scary movie is the campier or the cheap or the cheesier it is. It's
Yeah.
kind of where my wheelhouse is. Like I was watching this movie called WrestleManiac the other day, and it's basically a bunch of kids. They go down to Mexico to make a movie, and they stumble into this old Mexican town where a possessed luchador kills anybody that comes in.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
I am intrigued by this. Did you like it? It's good?
I mean, it's cheesier than cheese, but it's good. I thought it was okay. So yeah,
Yeah, that is awesome.
it kind of falls into that late '90s, early 2000s horror cliche where it's a lot of TNA, a lot of that stuff. But
Yeah.
it's so.
So it's funny we're talking about this because, being such a fan of horror movies, we filmed a music video basically the day before we left for tour. We filmed a music video. Who scheduled that? A psychopath. I learned a lesson there. But yeah, so I basically wrote this whole screenplay and got to kind of direct my own little horror inspired film to go along with the song. And I'm so excited for everyone to see it. Hopefully that'll be coming out just around Halloween as well. We're in the editing process right now. And that was one of the most fun things too, to kind of take that spin on the song and just slowly have things unravel and have it get more unsettling. And that's a dream for me because I've always wanted to be in a horror movie. So I kind of was like, oh, let me write myself one.
Nice. That's cool. Now, this is for Welcome Home or a different song? Okay.
Yeah, it is for Welcome Home.
Okay. That'll be cool. I'll have to do. So one of the things that I do on the weekends is I do music video critiques for independent artists. So
oh, man.
I will be on the lookout for that one. So.
Hey, just absolutely let me have it. I'll send it over. Yes.
No, honestly, I try and make it a little bit more like I try and be honest about it, but it's like Dave Portnoy's pizza reviews or whatever. So yeah, it's
okay. Awesome. Well, I'll have to send that over to you because we're so excited about that. It's one of the coolest things musically that I've able to have been a part of.
Now, will this be your first music video? I'm guessing.
So my first like theatric music
Okay.
video. I've done a live sessions music video with like kind of a little bit, but this is my first like real deal music video.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm beyond pumped about it. It's been, I almost pulled all my hair out, but it's been so worth it.
Fair. Very fair. That stress will get you, I swear.
It will. I try to just like keep checking in with myself and be like, this is what you've always wanted to do. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Don't, ruin the day by being so nervous, hoping it goes well that you don't even have fun. And so it was a good mantra to repeat. And we ended up having the absolute best time and everything went according to plan. Yeah, a couple sleepless nights, but it was absolutely worth it.
Right. It happens. It happens. And then I guess the follow-up question to the horror film question, what are you going to watch today? Like when we wrap up here, what are you going to watch?
Let's see. I've been thinking about that a lot. I've heard the Terrifier 3 is good. Mm-hmm. I've heard that it's good. So I might venture out to see what that's about.
I just watched the first one the other day. I fell asleep during it, which that wasn't like by design. I literally like I'm one of those guys that I'm always going. So when I lay down, it's because I'm telling myself I'm going to sleep. And I laid down during the movie and I just fell asleep. Like,
yeah, I just like to imagine that just like softly sleeping while someone's eyeballs are getting hacked to bits.
Yep. So I got to sit down and watch it again. But, I'm not for one way or the other about the Terrifier series. I just haven't seen it. So,
yeah. I don't know. I've been kind of back and forth on it as well because I'm not the hugest fan of just gore, just straight gore. Like, I really I'm fine with it, but I need there to be a good storyline. I need good lore behind whoever's inflicting this. Like, why are they doing it? Or at least like keep me interested in that. So I'm kind of like jury's still out, but I do want to see it just to be able to engage in the discourse.
Right. So, hey, fair enough. So kind of looking forward, obviously you've got the album coming out here beginning of next year and shows and whatnot. If anybody wants to check out your music, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, we're on all the major players. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. If you still buy music, we would absolutely love that. We don't expect it. We would love it. We're on basically every streaming service, all of that deal. You can check out, what I'm doing, what's new on BrittanyBishop.com. And then Brittany Lane Bishop on Instagram and Facebook as well. So we're keeping you updated all the time.
Awesome. So are you going to print out hard copies of the album when it drops, or is it all going to be pretty much digital?
It is going to be digital, I think, just from the standpoint of I thought it'd be really cool to have vinyls or CDs, but I looked at the profit margin, and after said music video I was just speaking about, I was like, do you know what? Maybe next time we'll hit that. Perfect. Which is so crazy to think about. That's where we are now, but yeah.
Right. I'm a sucker for good vinyl. Anytime I go out to a show or whatnot and I see a band has like vinyl out, it's like, okay, can I afford this? Yep. Okay, here you go.
Right. Yeah. I think it'd be really cool to do a limited run of them.
Yeah, 100%. It's like there's something to it. So
yeah, absolutely. It hits different. It feels kind of like dystopian to always be listening on the watch or the phone or the TV or the whatever. But music's still music. But there is something super special about holding it in your hands, pulling it out of the cover, being able to read the liner notes like that. That's kind of a lost art that I do miss.
Right. Absolutely. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute blast.
Yeah,
we'll definitely have to do it again, beginning of next year once the album's kind of a little bit more solidified with the release date and all that. And so
every Halloween, let's get together. We're going to talk about it, talk about some movies.
All right. I'm down. Actually next year I had this idea of doing like, because I'm a huge football fan, just doing a podcast every Sunday with somebody from the team that the Chicago Bears are playing. So like,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, and just
great.
But they'd have to be football fans for it to kind of make sense.
Right. Have to screen creating process.
Right. It's like at least know a little bit so that we can have that conversation and not just, oh yeah, I watched the Titans.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, love those guys. Love those
right,
guys. Home routes for days.
right. So, but once again, I absolutely enjoyed it. You're welcome back on anytime, and
Oh,
thank you so much for joining us.
thank you so much, Tom. We'll see you next time.